In interviews, he'll say, people are going to realize how important these jobs are. They can't sell cars. They can't stock the malls. They can't do anything in this country without my blankety blank people. And they're going to realize it. So when you take a really hard stance and a really tough stance against companies and corporations, fair enough. But you should know that, you know, a lot of your property records are out there for public consumption, and reporters are going to find those
things. I mean, he's obviously speaking for the union workers.
How should anybody see that as anything but a threat, by the way? They're like, they literally are like, oh, yeah, you're going to piss off. You're going to talk about how powerful your fucking, like how valuable your labor union is in terms of the global economy, in terms of the American economy. Well, your home address is out there. That's a threat, dude. What the fuck?
Has pre-shipped to get holiday goods into the United States ahead of the strike. But, you know, small and medium-sized businesses may not have the resources, and they may not be as lucky, Tony.
I mean, yeah, Tony, tell us about the dockers. Tell us about the dock workers.
Union workers seem pretty dug in. The president said no automation while he's alive, basically over my dead body. So how close are they really to resolving this?
Unfortunately, they are not close to a resolution. The union president has said he's willing to shut down the ports as long as necessary, even at the cost of the U.S. economy. Now, the group representing the ports and ocean carriers said earlier that it increased its offer, but apparently hasn't met all of the union demands, which include more money, a bigger slice of shipping company profits, as well as commitments to limit that automation we've been talking about and guarantee jobs, Tony.
All right, Jolene, thank you very much.
ILA union president, the guy who called the strike, Harold Daggett, leading the strike. Now we're learning more about his lavish lifestyle.
Cheryl Casoni from our sister network Fox Business is here to break it all down. Hi, Cheryl.
Hi, good morning to both of you. And he does have a bit of a lavish lifestyle, homes.
Let's go, baby. Cracking my knuckles over here. It's pocket watch time. My favorite, dude. Listen. Let him have a big ass house, brother. How big? How big is the house of the owner of these fucking massive shipping companies? I ain't seen you fucking cover that shit. I ain't seen you talk about that shit. We have this mentality that is so fucking ingrained in our minds that if you are like on the side of labor, you have to be living an ascetic lifestyle, that you have to literally be broke. Okay? That there is no way for you to, you know, advocate to take more of the fucking value that you are generating for your workers, that it's absolutely fucked up. It's backwards. It's so stupid. And it actually hurts my soul when I see leftists also pocket watching in a similar vein. All right? It's dumb as fuck, and we do it to ourselves as well. So maybe some people in this chat, in this community, will recognize how stupid that shit is when they see a bunch of dumbasses at Fox News repeating those exact same points. I love when like a anarchist will talk like a think tank guy on Fox News, but leftistly.
The odds of Bentley. Let's get into this. So first, let's talk about his salary. He makes a nice salary. Last year, this president, Harold Daggett, of course, he runs ILA, raked in $900,000, according to union filings from the Department of Labor. For comparison, the average union dock worker makes about $81,000 each year. Now, let's talk about the homes that he owns. He's got a 2.
Damn, dog. Kind of feels like the ILA local is making a shit ton more than the average union dock worker. Okay. And also kind of feels like he's asking for them to also get paid more. Isn't that the entire point of this fucking strike, dumbass? That's the whole point. He makes that because he fights so that these guys make this. Okay? That's an elected position for the most part. These are some old school unions. Some unions are a little different. May or may not have been elevated to that status way long ago. I don't really know the personal details of this one man, but none of that fucking matters. Even if the union structure is like somewhat corrupt, there's a lot of nepotism in this structure as well. Ultimately, the role that they're playing right now is the reason why they're shitting on him like this. The role that he's playing right now is for the workers. He is facilitating a work stoppage specifically to demand higher fucking wages because they have generated higher profits. They have generated higher value for capital owners for these massive companies. It is perfectly understandable that he fights for his workers, okay, to make sure that he gets more of the value that they've generated. That is at the heart of this conversation.
$1.4 million home, Sparta, New Jersey. He's got a Bentley, which he's been known to drive around town in.
I have two sons at the LA ports. Oh shit. You're fucking caked then. You got lucky as shit, PZ6 foe. Longshoremen are like dock workers in general are some of the most like aspired jobs out there. It is a really, I mean, it's a very difficult job, make no mistake, but they have some pretty fucking strong unions for this reason. I mean, they have the capacity to shut down the entire motherfucking economy if they choose to do so. Right? They're not full-time yet. I have two sons at the LA ports. There's a difference. Be casual worker and book A worker. What is it? Like the LA ports, like they make even more money. Let's see. LA ports, longshoreman salary. Look at this. Look. Look at this fucking bullshit. Look. West Coast dock workers making $200K demand higher pay. Union fight for pay raise now starting to affect ship operations. Oh, man. That's crazy. It's so funny when these guys are like such obvious assholes when they're like, wow, the International Longshore and Warehouse Union dock workers handle cargo across the West Coast and they already make $200K a year. Why do they want more? And by the way, this is from freightwaves.com. Okay. Industry publications like this basically operate specifically with capital in mind, obviously. And it is hilarious because when they demand more, they're not demanding more money to materialize out of nothing. They're demanding more of the money that they are generating for the companies. That's it. That's literally it. It's like getting mad when the NBA Players Union is demanding higher wages or better benefits. It's like, dude, you're a fucking idiot if you look at that and you go, oh, these guys, how dare they? They're already making millions of dollars a year. It's like, yeah, dude, because they're generating billions of dollars of fucking value as wage laborers for the goddamn multi-billionaires team. It's not like he's balling. You think fucking Miriam Adelson can ball like Kyrie Irving? Fuck no. Get the fuck out of here. You have to look at how much value that they're fucking generating. These guys cannot bankrupt their own companies, okay? And they don't. It is a lie. Anytime someone claims that the union demands far too much, they're lying, okay? Because it's not in their interest to bankrupt the company. If they did that, then they wouldn't have a fucking job. It's so stupid This conversation is so idiotic and it's so frustrating. Okay? The ILWU is demanding wages and benefits for the next 5-year contract that reflects dock workers' role in the COVID era import boom, a one-off event that ended last year. The prior contract expired July 1st, 2022. The union cited a decrease in the members' wages and benefits as a share of revenues of terminal employers and ocean carriers represented by the Pacific Maritime Association. Automation also cut into their labor force. ILWU Local 13 said that this is the other one, by the way. This is the western side. So the ILA is East Coast. The ILWU is West Coast. West Coast ports are more automated, from what I understand, than the East Coast ports are. Okay? And they even, the West Coast ports actually make even higher wages overall than the East Coast ports do. They get paid enough. You don't get to make that decision. Anyway, these are also highly sought after jobs as well for the benefits package that is fairly nice, and also the wages overall. The ILA current top rate for members is $39 after 6 years, well below the $54.85 an hour earned by West Coast peers at ILWU, a rate that will rise to $60.85 in 2027, the final year of their current contract. Yeah. Alex, friend of the show, Alex Press, wrote specifically about this, by the way. We're going to be talking about this as well. The first East Coast longshore strike in half a century is on. When you realize the wage comparisons between the ILWU, which is the West Coast Longshoremen's Union, and the ILA, which is the East Coast Longshoremen's Union, you then understand what the fuck is going on and why they are doing this. Okay? After a months-long impasse between the Longshore's Workers Union and its employers, 47,000 ILA workers from docks along the east and Gulf Coast have been struck. Billions of dollars worth of goods won't move until they return to work. Last time members of ILA shut down ports up and down the east and Gulf Coast was in 1977. Dock workers wanted higher wages and greater job security. New technology, specifically containerization, which transformed the industry, introduced uncertainty into the craft, and longshoremen who handled freight wanted to be sure that any disruptions introduced by the shifting mechanisms on the ports wouldn't lead to their permanent displacement. This is why labor unions are incredibly fucking important in terms of automation. Automation is a necessity. Automation is a reality. And labor unions are supposed to be there to protect the existing workforce so they do not get displaced from automation. Trade was only 16% of the U.S. economy back then, well below today's 27%. Yet the work stoppage, which lasted 45 days, was earth-shattering. Shippers said $4 billion worth of cargo piled up at the 30 affected docks in 1977. Remember, last time they actually struck. They did a strike. Other businesses and trucking companies laid workers off as the slowdown reverberated throughout the economy. In Puerto Rico, which relies on imports for the vast majority of its food, importers began bringing groceries in by air. The union proved largely victorious, winning increases in wages and benefits as well as greater job security. Why do this 1 month before the election, though? Suck my fucking dick, Mind Drive. Get the fuck out of here, dog. God damn. Don't ever fucking come in here with that libtard ass bullshit ever again, okay? Sorry for popping off on you this aggressively, but you got to kill the fucking lib in your brain. I swear to God. You got to kill the liberal in your brain right now. Don't even for a brief moment, don't yell at Mind Drive, okay? He's well-intentioned. He's well-intentioned. We're going to get to that, and don't yell at him, but god damn, it's just like there is that reactionary in people's minds that immediately fucking leans in and it's like, ooh, maybe there's something different afoot here. No, it's pretty fucking simple. I know Fox News blatantly lying, but you're talking like union bosses are not freaking Pampers. I don't give a fuck, bro. I don't care. I've said this time and time again. If corruption is an inevitability, I'd rather have the corrupt force actually fucking fight hard for the workers rather than the assumed corruption in the authoritarian structure of a fucking undemocratic workforce that has no labor union. Okay? That's it. That's it, man. Yeah, dude, he's shaving off a tidy penny for himself off the tippy top. Don't give a fuck. If their workers are properly fucking compensated and he's been fighting for them for 60 plus fucking years, then great. The only reason why we're having this conversation is because he's doing that, because he's fucking facilitating a work stoppage. That's it. That's the only reason why they're pocket watching. And nobody ever fucking pocket watches the goddamn CEO. We take it for granted. We think the CEO deserves all that goddamn money. He does not. Okay? And it's not like the CEO is going to take too much of a fucking pay cut. It's the value that they're providing. It's the value that these workers are providing, and they're demanding more of it. That is perfectly fair. Okay? It's perfectly reasonable. It's perfectly fair. It's bare fucking minimum. Don't give a shit about the fucking union leader's salary in this process. Nearly half a century later, wages and job security are once again at the center of a port shutdown that will snarl supply chains and send shockwaves through the U.S. economy. Okay? That is at the heart of the matter. Of course it's going to send shockwaves. That's the whole point. That's what a work stoppage is. You got to hurt the company so that they understand how important you are. You want to know why? Because the bosses don't provide value. The bosses do not generate value. If they did, they'd get the fucking work and start putting containers together themselves. Why are the shareholders not strapping up and working on the goddamn containers? I thought that they were the ones who generate the value. No, they don't. They just retain it. That's it. Their job is to just sit there and collect the fucking check. Okay? In the week prior to the strike by ILA members, which began at 12 this morning, some $14 billion in trade arrived at ports covered by the union's master agreement. From produce to seafood to pharmaceuticals to cars, these ports handle about half of all goods shipped in and out of the United States. Okay? So my point is, you're going to get annoyed. You're going to get mad. Inflation is going to fucking hit. I need you to remember, you have two options here. There's two sides in every negotiation. You can either listen to the media and get mad at the fucking labor union for demanding higher wages off of the fucking profits that they've generated, off of the value that they generated, or you can get mad at the owners of the company for not conceding to the demands being made by the labor union. The media will gear you in the upcoming days, as they are doing right now, to get mad at the fucking labor union. They'll say these guys are corrupt. They got mob ties, this and that, yada, yada, yada. Okay? But you have to remember, the job of the labor union leader is to fight for a contract that he can take back to his fucking rank and file workers that will then democratically vote on that contract and ratify it. So it's not up to him. In most cases, it's not just up to him to just be like, all right, we're getting back to fucking work. However, on the other side, you have the bosses. And the bosses can unilaterally concede to the demands that the labor union makes in earnest. Okay? This is not a one-sided story. The boss is a dictator. Technically, there is no democratic process on the side of the bosses. They could just say, we don't want this work stoppage. We're losing too much goddamn money. Immediately, you're right. You've made an honest effort here. You are earnestly demanding more of the fucking value that you have generated for us over the course of the past couple of years, especially during COVID. We're going to give it to you. If they said that, and usually there's a month-long process leading up to a strike. There's a lot of back and forth, as Alex Press also correctly pointed out. It doesn't just out of nowhere materialize. The strike is always the last effort, okay? Nobody wants it. Nobody wants to go, nobody wants to strike. That's not a thing. Okay? It's a hard process. People get furloughed. They don't want to fucking hurt other workers in the goddamn economy either. It should never get to that. Good management should never allow it to get to a work stoppage. So when they do allow this process to take place, that means they are being fucking greedy assholes. Okay? And if you're in a labor union, you already know that. But many people aren't. We live in a country where the labor union participation rate is unfortunately only 10%. It's lower than a country that we actually destroyed. Chile has a 15% labor union participation rate. Chile, we wrote their constitution. We implemented neoliberalism with a dictatorship in that country. We overthrew its democratically elected socialist government, and they still have a higher labor union participation rate than we do here in the United States of America. So understand something, okay? This is the reason why many of you do not understand how this shit works. You're like, oh, what? Unions? I don't really get it. I just read about it on paper. But this is how it works. This is how it works. Okay? So now, let's get back to Fox News chirping.
He's also got a $1.4 million home, according to Newsweek, in Highland Beach, Florida. Elon Musk made a really interesting post on X. He said, dude has more yachts than me. When a picture of his yacht was posted on social media. He also has, he's had some interesting accusations in his past.
Genuinely curious about your stance on boycotting for Gaza. I know you drank Dr. Pepper.
The ports and the ocean carriers money crazy. But, he lives a nice life, to be clear here. But when he goes into these meetings, he's making threats like, and he says this in interviews, he'll say, people are going to realize how important these jobs are. They can't sell cars. They can't stock the malls. They can't do anything in this country without my blankety blank people. And they're going to realize it. So when you take a really hard stance and a really tough stance against companies and corporations, fair enough, but you should know that, a lot of your property records are out there for public consumption, and reporters are going to find those things.
I mean, he's obviously speaking for the union workers.
How should anybody see that as anything but a threat, by the way? They literally are like, oh, yeah? You're going to piss off? You're going to talk about how powerful your fucking, how valuable your labor union is in terms of the global economy, in terms of the American economy? Well, your home address is out there. That's a threat, dude. What the fuck? I love that she also brought up that, he got hit with a RICO charge and then turned around and was like, yeah, nothing came of it, but we're just going to mention that anyway. They're so fucking gross, dude. These people literally, I mean, I know this better than anybody else, okay? Trust me. Oh, yeah? You want to fucking advocate for good wages for the American working class? Guess what, dude? Your home address is public. It's out there. It's like, oh, thanks. That's nice. It's a nice thing to say.
Workers who make, what'd you say, $81,000 a year, but for the boss to be making almost $1 million, have 2 houses, a yacht, and saying, we need more money. We're not.
Yeah, the boss. That's a elected position, but he's a boss. Meanwhile, the actual boss at the company, not an elected position. But make no mistake, we're not going to talk about the real fucking boss in this situation. We're going to talk about the elected leadership as the union boss.
Making enough. There are going to be people who criticize that.
Yeah. Cheryl, there's also a way to fight for your people. And I don't think any of us can begrudge him. That is his job. But when you say things like, his strikers have the power to cripple the economy at a time when our economy is in the shape that it's in with inflation, that's not going to endear you to the American people.
I will tell you one thing. The people of North Carolina need a lot of things right now, like water, the homes destroyed. All of those things are coming in from ships. A lot of the supplies that these people need come in on ships. I just want to make that point. And that was made on Fox Business by Chris Spear.
Yeah. One, you don't give a fuck about those people. Two, once again, don't you think that then it's the responsibility of the party that has all the power to quickly concede to the reasonable demands being made by the labor union? We don't have domestic water production in the United States. Yeah, no, they're fucking that's stupid. The water argument is stupid that she's making anyway, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Even if we take her argument at face value, okay, even if we operate under the assumption that she's not like just, you know, grabbing onto whatever the fuck she can to make a stupid ass fucking point, what matters is there are two parties to this fucking contract negotiation. But notice how they're not talking about one of the two parties. Perhaps the party that actually has the capacity to stop this without any sort of fucking repercussions. This is why I think it's very important. This is why I try to explain and communicate this aspect to Americans on a regular basis. They do not know this. They do not understand this. Because it's not that they're stupid. It's that they've been made stupid by mainstream media that refuses to openly admit basic facts about contract negotiations with labor unions. And instead, hyper focus on like these silly ass things like, oh, he's rich, bro. Well, he's corrupt. He was indicted for a RICO charge, but it went nowhere. It's like, I don't give a fuck. None of those are the reasons why he's striking right now, okay? He's striking because him and his workers, mostly his workers, his job is his responsibility primarily to his laborers, okay? His rank and file union members. His workers generated billions of dollars, multiple billions of dollars in profit for the company. And now they want some of that. They made it. They generated it. It's perfectly valid for them to demand it.
From the Trucking Association to me on Monday in an interview that I conducted. He said, look, we've got a natural disaster on our hands, and this is when you need patriotism to show itself.
Great point. Great point there. And bottom line, pays to be a union boss. Cheryl, thank you so much.
I'm thinking of becoming a union boss.
A union of...
I thought you were
We'll
a union
figure it
boss.
Who will be your workers?
I feel
Cheryl
bossed
knows.
around every day.
Catch Cheryl on Mornings with Maria. See, I'm advocating for you. I'm quite a boss.
Thank you.
Kasani, thank you.
We gotta have a better fucking media diet than this shit. Anyway, speaking outside of a port terminal in Elizabeth, New Jersey, early Tuesday, moments after the union's 6-year contract expired. That's why they're fucking doing this, by the way, because it's a contract renegotiation that's happening right now. Not because he's in the tank for Donald Trump or some shit. His own personal politics don't matter in this circumstance. I would never make that argument about Sean O'Brien either. Sean O'Brien is a fucking hog, but one thing I regularly point to is that he's a hog that fights for his fucking workers, okay? His responsibility primarily, when push comes to shove, when contract negotiations are taking place, he's a hog that is going to fight and fight like fucking hell for his workers. The reason why this strike is happening right now is because their contract is up And the companies have refused to concede to their reasonable demands in terms of a better contract with better benefits, better terms. I mean, a lot of Teamsters disagree with that assessment of him, though.
Today's world.
All right, we watched this yesterday, but we'll watch it again. It's a good take.
But today's world, it's changing into the future. They're not making millions no more. They're making billions. And they're spending it fast as they make it. I want a piece of that for my men. Because when they made their most money was during COVID. When my men had to go to work on those piers every single day, when everybody stayed home and went to work. Not my men. They died out there with the virus. We all got sick with the virus. We kept them going. From Canada to Maine to Texas, Great Lakes, Puerto Rico, now the Bahamas, everybody went to work during COVID. Nobody stayed home. Well, I want to be compensated for that. I'm not asking for the world. They know what I want. They know what I want. And if they don't, well, then I have to go into the street and we have to fight for what we rightfully deserve. These people today don't know what a strike is.
Right.
When my men hit the streets, from Maine to Texas, every single port will lock down. You know what's gonna happen? I'll tell you. First week, be all over the news every night, boom, boom. Second week, guys who sell cars can't sell cars because the cars ain't coming in off the ships. They get laid off. Third week, walls start closing down. They can't get the goods from China. They can't sell clothes. They can't do this. Everything in the United States comes on a ship. They go out of business. Construction workers get laid off because the materials aren't coming in. The steel's not coming in. The lumber's not coming in. They lose their job. Everybody's hating the longshoremen now because now they realize how important our jobs are. Now I have the president screaming at me, I'm putting a Taft-Hartley on you. Go ahead. Taft-Hartley means I have to go back to work for 90 days. That's a cooling off period. Do you think when I go back for 90 days, those men are going to go to work on that pier? It's going to cost the company's money to pay their salaries. Well, they went from 30 moves an hour maybe to 8. They're going to be like this. Who's going to win here in the long run? You're better off sitting down and let's get a contract and let's move on with this world. And in today's world, I'll cripple you. I will cripple you, and you have no idea what that means. Nobody does.
I love him. I fucking love him, dude.
The first dock worker strike at major East and Gulf Coast ports in almost half a century, actually, is now in its third day. And there are renewed concerns that the strike by members of the International Longshoremen's Association could drive the prices of consumer goods back.
No, dude, he's not like, it's not being based, dog. It's his job. He's doing his fucking job. Unions are not about like leftist politics or right-wing politics. It's about fair, okay? It's about what's fair.
Back up after a recent ease in inflation, with food products being the first to be potentially affected.
CBS News Baltimore reporter Tara Lynch is in Baltimore, and as you see there, she's joined by ILA Local 333 President Scott Cohen. Tara.
Yes, thank you so much. We are joined by Scott, the local president here of the ILA. Scott, tell us a little bit about what we're seeing here, day 3 that your men and women have been out here on the picket line.
We're out here picketing for better wages and automation protection, and we're willing to stay out here as long as it takes to get what we want.
And tell us a little bit about what we are seeing in terms of negotiations, anything that you're hearing that we could see folks back at the table soon.
I'm hearing it's a little bit slow right now, but we have all the faith in the world in our international president. These men and women here in Baltimore, we back him 100%, and we feel like he'll get us the deal that we need.
And what are you looking for in some more specifics? Obviously, wages, automation at the front lines of this negotiation.
We're looking for a little bit of improvement to our health care, a little bit of improvement to our container royalty, and jurisdiction protections, as well as automation protections against fully automated terminals and semi-automation.
Here in Baltimore, it's been a difficult year at the port. We had a bridge that collapsed at the end of March that just sort of put everything on pause until that channel was cleared. Now we have this situation. How difficult has this year been for your men and women and your members?
Well, it's very tough for us. We were out of work. A lot of these folks were out of work for 2 months with the bridge collapse. Now with the strike here going on top of it, on the back 6 months later, almost to the day, it's tough for them. We're probably the hardest hit out of anybody because we had that 2-month shutdown earlier in the year. But they're willing to sit out here and they're willing to strike for what they believe in and what we need to get.
And some of the local conversation, I think, has been in the Key Bridge collapse. We were able to reroute goods to other ports and get trucks out there to get the goods where they needed to go. Sure. This time, obviously, a little bit different with most of those ports on the East Coast.
Hasan not mentioning the arms shipment is really disappointing. No wonder why there's no left in the U.S. if all are this dumb. His job is to keep sending arms to kill children. First of all, I have. This is not my first time covering this. I have, and I will get to it again. Okay. But you, as a 47-month subscriber, have already made up your mind as a fucking radical Maoist third worldist revolutionary about the labor arista KKK rats in the United States of America KKK. When this part of the conversation is specifically about, on the domestic level, what labor unions do for their workers. Okay? It's also about how the media covers labor unions and how they're directly at odds or very adversarial, very contentious to the labor unions and the demands that they make. It's basic leftist 101. Okay? So shut your stupid ass up and sit the fuck down. How about that? I don't care. Okay? Don't come in here and say, sorry, children are being bombed to pieces. I offer coverage to that every day, and I will continue offering coverage to that. Actually, you know what? I'm going to fucking perma you. Okay? If you think I don't give a shit about that, you are delusional. Okay? Suck my dick. Shut your bitch ass up. Okay? There's a place for that conversation, and it is going to happen. Just sit the fuck down and listen. Why are you fucking chirping? And not only are you chirping, but you're also assuming that there is some cynical reason as to why I am not mentioning something that I have already mentioned. It's like fucking burgeoning in a math class and being like, why aren't you talking about physics? Okay? I had someone who survived the Israeli genocide of the Palestinians yesterday on this broadcast. Do you think I'm not sufficiently offering coverage to the Palestinian plight? Are you fucking stupid? That was a 4-year viewer. How? Because 4-year viewers, long-term community members, literally get up in their fucking feelings and are delusional. They have the same capacity to be fucking delusional just like a new chirper is. Okay? It's just like, I don't know. It's just something that happens in the process where they go, nah, man, I'm emotional because children are dying. So I'm going to yell at the guy who literally offers coverage to that every day. I absolutely fucking despise backseaters of this sort.
Coast shutdown. You said the trucking industry, one of those that are also experiencing this as well. What are you hearing from your partners on the ground here in the trucking business?
Well, you know, they're affected by this just as much as us. I mean, the trucking industry is just as important as the longshoremen. We're codependent on each other. We unload the goods and they get it to market. Without the trucking community, this whole country would be shut down. So they're struggling as well with this, and they just want to get back to work just like we do.
Scott, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. We'll have you on a bit later on WJZ here locally, and we'll send it back to you guys.
Tara, thank you so much, and please share our thanks with Scott.
President Joe Biden continues to say he will not get involved in this labor dispute.
And tonight, someone asked our Verify team if the president actually has the power to end the strike. Chairman Chow taking a closer look.
The current White House administration supports the Longshoremen's union's position for a new contract with the U.S. Maritime Alliance. It represents ports and employers. Historically, the U.S. government has not always backed unions. Under the threat of this strike having...
You think that chatter is going to go to the docks to do a protest over arms shipments there, or is their activism just yelling at you in chat? It's just yelling at me in chat. Their activism is yelling at me in chat. By the way, I've made a lifelong enemy of that 47-month subscriber. There's only two ways that this goes. Either he's going to come back and DM me or the mods being like, I'm sorry, I was very emotional. My family lives in Lebanon or something, okay? And I shouldn't have said that. Or they are now officially a lifelong hater of mine, and they'll be fucking retweeting like Jackson Hinkle and Destiny in a matter of weeks. Maybe even fucking Sneeko if they're calling me gay or whatever the fuck. That's usually how this works, okay? This is what happens. I ban a fucking long-term community member. This is what they turn into. The first part of that process makes sense if you have like some kind of conviction about your fucking point of view. You understand that you just chirped for no fucking reason. You acted as emotional as well, though. I know. I am right now as well. Yeah. You get yelled at every fucking day. Non-stop. What? Please read this. I'm on the picket line at our local hall and just heard the phone call from Daggett to our local president that they've agreed to our terms and the contract is going to be signed. Wait, really? God damn. I can't tell if this is a top of the hour ad break debate or if this person is like being for real. You know what I mean? Good shit. What about? ILA has a new contract signed. No details as of this minute. We're going back to work, boys and girls. God damn. Breaking news of the HasanAbi broadcast. At the top of the hour, there is a 3-minute ad break. if you no longer want to see those ads, well, then all you need to do is subscribe, which you could do for $6 for all the ILA members with a better contract that you're going to get. You will now be able to go back to work, have more disposable income, higher disposable income that you can use at the HasanAbi broadcast at the top of the hour. There's still a tentative agreement, and they still have to vote for it. But, you know, we'll see what happens. Anyway, here's the 3-minute ad break now. I just want everyone to understand the reason why I banned that person is not because, like,
Transportation is coordinating calls with seaport, rail, and trucking partners to ensure that all are prepared and positioned appropriately to limit disruptions to the supply chain and other areas should this continue. I'm also directing Florida Department of Transportation to temporarily waive the collection of tolls and other fees for commercial vehicles using public highways in Florida and waiving the size and weight restrictions normally governing vehicle transportation for the duration of this emergency. This will help expedite the movement of goods that have been impacted from seaports to intermodal logistics centers, distribution centers, and delivery points, and very well may help offset additional costs incurred by operation during this period. Finally, I'm directing the Florida Highway Patrol to manage the flow of traffic from all Florida seaports and adjacent roads and highways as needed to further expedite the flow of goods that are currently being held up. This will include the provision of law enforcement escorts for commercial motor vehicles by FHP officers upon request. And I would say that
he's using literally every part of the public funds to just scab. That's crazy. This is literally the federal government or the state government intervening in a strike on the side of the bosses. Not surprising from Florida, of course.
this is something that would have significant impacts on the nation's economy anyways, but to have this happen in a way that could negatively impact people that are reeling from a Category 4 hurricane, that is just simply unacceptable. So it really is incumbent upon the Biden-Harris administration to do everything in their power to ensure that these goods are where we need to be, that people are not left hanging out in the cold waiting for these goods if they're sitting in the ocean somewhere and they're not being able to be used here in the state of Florida or in Georgia or North Carolina.
By the way, being a genocidecide, which is, of course, the biggest crime, okay, Joe Biden's attitude towards the ILA strike was the correct attitude demonstrated by officials, where he said, I'm on the side of the workers. The company made a shit ton of profits. They should concede to the demands of the workers. Okay? He absolutely had the correct assessment, which I suspect also led to this strike, if it did end, like this new contract being put in front of the ILA with relative speed. People like Ron DeSantis end up extending the strike. Okay?
Long-lasting effects on the supply chain. Viewer Gloria wants to know, can the president stop the dock workers' strike? To verify, we went to our sources, including the White House Archives, the Library of Congress, the Congressional Research Service, and the National Labor Relations Board.
Efforts of business interests to forcibly open the strike-paralyzed port of San Francisco failed.
Labor disputes have had a storied history in the U.S., some even turning deadly. Before World War II, a handful of presidents got involved by use of force with troops or issuing ultimatums to end strikes. After the war, there was a wave of labor strikes across multiple industries.
I believe that the time has come to adopt a comprehensive labor policy.
To get the country and economy working again, Congress overrode a veto by then-President Harry S. Truman to pass the Labor Management Relations Act of 1947, better known as the Taft-Hartley Act. In a letter to the House of Representatives, Truman wrote he was concerned cooperation cannot be achieved by force of law.
There are no pickets at the container dock because there are no container ships in port.
Since the legislation was put in place, the Congressional Research Office says the Taft-Hartley Act has been used by presidents 37 times. This New York Times article from 1961 details President Truman, who vetoed it, invoked it 10 times. Other presidents using Taft-Hartley include Eisenhower, Kennedy, Nixon, Carter, and George W. Bush.
If Biden helped facilitate the contract, doesn't communicate it, I would lose my mind. No, he did. He supported the workers. He supported the ILA. He very openly, very publicly did so.
So yes, the president has the power to stop the dock workers' strike. If the president invokes Taft-Hartley.
He literally said, I don't believe in Taft-Hartley. Like, straight up, those words. He said, I don't believe in Taft-Hartley. Go ILA, go. Which is crazy because he sucks so much fucking ass, but he's so goddamn good on this issue.
Hartley, the labor dispute doesn't immediately end. Under the law, a federal court also gets involved to potentially return strikers back to work. With your Verify, I'm Sherman Chow.
Unlike right now, why you don't need to panic about the
Like, yeah. President Joe Biden, I don't believe in Taft-Hartley. Mr. President, will you intervene in the dock worker strike if they go on strike on Tuesday? No. Why not? Because there's collective bargaining, and I don't believe in Taft-Hartley. The ILA conceded the weapons thing to Biden in order to ensure his support. Okay, that's also not correct. As far as I understand, that is a long-standing agreement that the ILA has for never stopping weapons transfers and weapons shipments. Okay? It is a like a long-standing obligation that the fucking ILA has had. What? I already ran the top of the hour ad break, man. I did. I don't know why you're fucking trying to get me with a debate. Last ILWU strike, that's a separate union. Okay. The ILWU is the West Coast one. They stopped moving arms and George W. Bush shut them down. The ILA has a long-standing policy since, I believe, World War II to never stop weapon shipments. Obligation like outside of the purview of the contract. Why would they commit to that? I don't know, because they're fucking hogs. Like, I think the guy literally talked about the dude Daggett is like a Vietnam War veteran or some shit too. I can't believe people are asking, what is Taft-Hartley, when they literally covered it on the Verify local news, on the fucking local news media. Like, do you guys just not listen, dude? When shit is on screen, like, what the fuck's going on, man? Fuck, I'm supposed to be an educator. I'm supposed to be an educator. I'm just gonna fucking calm down, and I'm gonna run the same video again.
Storied history in the U.S. World War II, a handful of presidents got involved by use of force with troops or issuing ultimatums to end strikes. After the war, there was a wave of labor strikes across multiple industries.
I believe that the time has come to adopt a comprehensive labor policy.
To get the country and economy working again, Congress overrode a veto by then-President Harry S. Truman to pass the Labor Management Relations Act of 1947, better known as the Taft-Hartley Act. In a letter to the House of Representatives, Truman wrote he was concerned cooperation cannot be achieved by force of law.
There are no pickets at the container dock because there are no container ships in port.
Since the legislation was put in place, the Congressional Research Office says the Taft-Hartley Act has been used by presidents 37 times. This
Taft-Hartley is a forcible work stoppage or a forcible stoppage of the strike that implies that you have to go back to work for at least 90 days. Okay. The president comes in and says, you have to go back to work. It doesn't matter. It's illegal for you not to go back to work. Didn't he say Biden threatened him with it? No. They asked Biden, would you use it? Biden said, no, I don't believe in using it. There is a concept called collective bargaining. The law introduced by two Republicans, Senator Robert Taft of Ohio and Representative Fred Hartley Jr. of New Jersey. In the aftermath of World War II, it followed a series of strikes in 1945 and 46 by workers who demanded better pay and working conditions and the privations of wartime. President Harry Truman opposed it, but his veto was overridden by Congress. In addition to authorizing a president to intervene in strikes, the law banned closed shops, which required employers to hire only union workers. The ban allowed workers to refuse to join a union. Taft-Hartley also barred secondary boycotts, therefore making it illegal for unions to pressure neutral companies to stop doing business with an employer that was targeted in a strike. It is one of the most significant anti-labor union legislations out there in American history, in a sea of horrifying anti-union legislation. It is, just like all of the other decisions made both by the Supreme Court and by our legislative body, masqueraded as a pro-freedom legislation. It also required union leaders, and this part is the least shocking part, to sign affidavits declaring that they did not support the Communist Party. Presidents have the capacity to use Taft-Hartley and target a strike if it may imperil the national health and safety. You can make the argument about every single strike that exists. The president can appoint a board of inquiry to review and write a report on the labor dispute and then direct the attorney general to ask a federal court to suspend a strike by workers or lockout by management. Yeah, AFL-CIO at it again. The court will issue an injunction. It's a 80-day cooling off period. 80 days. Which means during this period, management and the workers have to do their very best to adjust and settle their differences. The law itself cannot force union members to accept a contract offer, but it makes it illegal for you not to go back to work. Most people don't want to violate the law like that. Okay? So then what they usually do in matters such as this one is slow down their work. Okay? They don't completely halt their work, but they slow down their work. This way, for that 80-day period, the bosses are still forced to pay their workers for way shittier, like deliberately shittier work. It's a way to still continue to, demand a better contract. Yeah, the strike is, by the way, seemingly over. In the time frame that it took for me to explain to you how the media coverage works, that chatter was telling the truth. My fucking goat chatter. My ILA goat. Where is he? It's officially over. He even sent me a Discord link, but he got timed out. Anyway, he was right. We got to hear first, baby. Breaking news. Anyway, let's watch Richard Wolff talk about the Taft-Hartley Act.
1947, a law was passed called the Taft-Hartley Bill, after Senator Taft and Congressperson Hartley. And this was a remarkable piece of legislation. It went after the communists, it went after the socialists, and it went after the labor unions. It basically told labor unions that they couldn't anymore elect democratically their own leaders. For example, it forbade a communist from running for office, winning a majority of the votes, and serving as the leader of a union, which communists had been doing for 20 or more years in the United States without an incident. It became illegal. Wow. But it went much further. It had a remarkable clause which has remained law to this day as I'm speaking. And the clause goes like this. If at a workplace, a factory, an office, a store, there's a union, and let's say half the workers in this place have voted for the union and joined the union and have a union there. And let's say that that union negotiates with the employer and gets a contract. Let's say a wage increase of 10 cents an hour. Under the Taft-Hartley law, then and to this moment, that union must give anything it wins with the employer to all the workers there, whether they're in the union or not, whether they joined the union or not, whether they pay union dues or not, whether when the union, if it thought it had to, called a strike.
Understand that this literally is a way. Understand that this is a way for to destroy unions. Okay, if you have free riders, then people are not going to fucking become dues-paying members. If you don't have dues-paying members, then there's no reason to fucking join the union. If you don't have dues-paying members and there's no reason to join the union doesn't have strike funds. The union doesn't have legal funds. Okay? This is a way to use freedom in an effort to disincentivize adding on new membership. They also made it virtually impossible to have union-only shops. Like, this is a very calculated strategy. And the only area that this kind of like some semblance of like old school union work existed was the public sector, which the Supreme Court also gutted.
And had workers go out and tell the public about their situation to help pressure the employer to meet them halfway and give them a wage increase. The workers who went on strike and therefore didn't get paid had to give to all the other workers who didn't go on strike, who didn't lose a day's pay, the same benefits they won. The Taft-Hartley law, in effect, created an incentive for workers not to join a union, not to pay the union dues, because they were...
It's really sick. Like, It's a really insidious way to tackle union membership. It's not even talked about nowadays because there is no such thing as like union membership or big union drives to begin with. Like every now and then we talk about it when there's like a big fucking strike. But it is such a insidious way in undermining one of the only ways that unions can fucking exist, which is through dues. If you don't have dues, if you do not have dues, you do not have strike funds. If you don't have strike funds, you can't go on a work stoppage. Because how are you going to pay for that fucking worker's family when he's not working? If you don't have dues, you also don't have legal funds. How are you going to fucking incur the wrath of your corporation that's going to sue you into oblivion? They tackled the funding mechanism of unions in an effort to cripple them, and it worked very successfully.
Would get whatever the union won, whether they did so or not. That's fundamentally unfair, and you know it, and I know it, and the people then knew it. It was a hammer blow against the labor movement. Wow. This was an attempt to destroy the communists and the unions and the coalition between them. Because, of course, if a communist couldn't be elected, that removed them from leadership of unions. And if more and more people decided not to pay union dues, not to be part of the union, it weakened whatever unions could do. So it was a crazy but effective way to abuse the law in the interest of a purge. But it had the effect of weakening the labor movement. It was the opening.
Yeah. See, yup, I've already paid $1,000 in dues this year and don't give a damn because of everything I get for it. Yup. There's not a world in which you pay more for your dues than you get in return for what the union does for you. Okay? What if I can't afford the dues? What do you mean? It's coming off of your fucking paycheck, dog. And it's funny because it doesn't just come off your paycheck. When people say, oh, what if I can't afford it? It's like, you do know the beautiful part of fucking joining a labor union is that, or a workplace unionizing is that there's going to be a new contract. There's going to be a contract that comes with it. And ironically enough, your dues that you're going to be paying into the labor union are going to be far smaller than what the new contract gets for you. That is the beauty of collective bargaining. As far as I know, most dues are just 2 hours of work a month. It's not crazy. I mean, it's different. Union dues are the best investment in your family's economic security you can make as a worker. Yeah. Hi, UAW member here. I pay about $70 a month in dues. When we had our son's hospital bill, it was over $250,000 a month. Because of my union negotiated insurance, I paid one copay of $25. Union dues have been the single best investment I've ever made in my family and myself. My dues are like 1% of my check. In return, I make double the hourly pay of a non-union shop and 4% GWI every year. You get insurance. You get better health care. You get better paid time off. You get better immediate workplace conditions. Unions are so fucking good that they literally increase the wages of non-union shops because they have to force to compete with the union shops and their salaries and benefits packages. Unionized workforces on average in the same exact industry in the same exact region make 10% more than their non-unionized partners. Huh. It's crazy because unions are not the end all be all of like radical socialist policies. I timed out. I'm goated. I'm the GOAT. Thanks for standing by us when most of the country wanted our necks. You're the real GOAT, brother. Of course. Of course. Always, dude. I'll always fucking stand with the workers. There's a couple red lines that I enforce, unlike Joseph Robinette Brandon. And those red lines are that I always will express solidarity with working class individuals and union activity.